Hey. Now, before we get into today's episode, this is the first time we've ever explored this topic of sobriety and substance on the podcast. But it felt so important to bring this conversation to the table because the truth is, substance abuse impacts so many entrepreneurs, high performers, and the people that they love. And it's often something we don't talk about out loud. So if you or someone you care about is struggling, you are not alone. There is support. You can call the SAMHSA hotline to get help. It's free, confidential, and available 24/7. So please take care of yourself as you listen. Now, let me introduce you to today's guest. I've had the honor of knowing Gillian Tietz for a few months now, and she is the host of the Sober Powered podcast. It is one of the top rated podcasts in the sobriety space. She is a certified sober coach. Since getting sober in 2019, she's been on a mission to help others understand the why behind their drinking and why it has nothing to do with being a weak-willed loser. With a background in biochemistry and lived experience in recovery, Jill brings a powerful mix of science and heart to her work. She teaches how alcohol actually changes the brain and how real freedom comes from self-awareness, emotional regulation, and doing the work. Jill is somebody I really trusted with the tenderness of bringing this conversation to the podcast. And in this season, when we are talking about the perception gap, how others perceive us, but more importantly, how we perceive ourselves and how we are showing up to lead, how we are showing up to be visible, how we are showing up to grow and build our businesses, and what is impacting that or making it difficult to do that and owning our full truth. I just knew that this was one of the conversations that had to be had about how we might be coping, what we might be using to tolerate discomfort and unease in our lives. And I'm just really honored to have this conversation with you. I am a little nervous because we've never done it on the podcast, but I really hope you enjoy this conversation. I hope that it helps you or helps somebody that you know and love. And I cannot wait to hear your feedback on it. But let's get into today's episode. Y'all, I am so excited to have this conversation. I'm a little nervous to have this conversation right now, to be also fully transparent, because I don't think we've ever really talked about this type of dynamic on the podcast. But Jill is the only person I wanted to have this conversation with and that I felt safe bringing this type of conversation to the podcast with. So thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you for having me. It's cool to be in a conversation like this with you.
Yeah, I know.
I'm nervous too.
Well, I mean, I know I gave a really in-depth background through your bio, but can you just give us a lay of the land of how do you contribute through your work and through your business, as a professor, but also in your business? Like, what is the work that you do right now? And kind of just give us a short breakdown of kind of like who you are and kind of how you're contributing right now.
Yeah, I feel like if people who know me think of me, they probably think about all of the science that I share. So I help people understand basically why they can't control their drinking. And then I'm really big on the fact that problem drinkers can't learn how to moderate.
Mm,
So I've spent almost 5 years just really or over 5 years actually, educating myself on like why this happens to people and why some people can choose to drink heavily and then choose to not, and other people don't have a choice. They just go hard or they have to be sober. And I wanted to understand why that happened to me and if it was because I was a loser or not.
mm.
That was the motivation.
It's part of the reason I wanted to have this conversation is and get in full transparency. Like, my father passed away last year in 2024, and alcohol being it, I always labeled him as an alcoholic, or I didn't know how to properly label, because I think growing up in our household we just didn't talk about it. Like, if just there were people in the family that drank a little bit more at the holiday gatherings than others, and it's like, oh, okay, they're just being who they are. But as a kid growing up, I just saw how it impacted him. And I just see towards his unexpected death. Like, you could tell how that type of substance abuse really impacted his ability. And I think part of the reason why his life ended, I think, sooner than it should have. And it just got me really thinking about what's going on with my own clients right now, how people are coping and dealing with the pressures, the post-pandemic, I feel like aftermath, just these silent struggles that people are going through and how it is showing up in their lives and how they operate and how it's showing up in their business and like their relationship with it, but it's not something that I hear talked about publicly. Like I think it's like it seems like this private thing that people are wrestling with. And even just having conversations, it's like it's sometimes these things that there's a lot of shame built around. It's like we hide it from our partners sometimes. People will hide it from their business. They'll hide it from their therapist. And I just, can you maybe break down, because right before we hopped on, I was like, what is the terminology that people are using to self-identify? And why are certain terms, like how do those terms really impact I think people's wrestle with the actual like with sobriety. Like I would love for you just to share that again too, because I feel like that was really helpful language that you gave me.
Yeah, so first of all, I'm sorry that you had to watch that because it's hard enough watching someone drink that way, but then someone who doesn't come out of it, that's even harder.
Thank you. I think too, growing up, I didn't know it was something I was like watching, you know? And I think, you know, even when I wanted you to come on, I was like, I've never personally wrestled with like substance abuse or just like overconsumption. But I asked myself, okay, why have you not? I'm like, because I had very clear models of what like over consuming of something will do to you. So I was always been very afraid. So I would just do the complete opposite. So I've just like never been a drinker or very, you know, I might like, I still even now, I mean, I guess too, as I'm getting older, there is no upside to alcohol. So I'm like, I don't even like doing it when I go out socially anymore. But even when I shared that with you and I'm like, well, I've never wrestled with it, but I feel like it'd be a good conversation to bring onto the podcast. It made me think, I'm like, it's because I've seen what bad looked like and I've been so afraid of it. I just did the complete opposite and went to like the far end of the other extreme. So thank you for that. And I think for a long time, even when he passed away, it's like I didn't know that's what I was witnessing because it there wasn't a label. It wasn't really discussed. It was just like something you have to maneuver around.
Yeah, it's hard to understand whether you're a kid and it's your parent or you're an adult and it's your partner doing it. And the label that we're kind of taught is just that's an alcoholic, someone who's selfish, who doesn't have any self control, who doesn't care about other people. And because that's what we're consistently shown, like we just apply that to those people.
Yeah.
And we only understand our own experience. And when we can control ourselves when we drink, I mean, not me, obviously, but the general we, uh, when people can control themselves when they drink and then they watch someone not stop, it's like, what's wrong with you? Like, why do you keep doing this? And they
Mm.
don't understand that person's experience. So then when you're on the other side and you're someone like me, all of those perceptions, all the stigma, it gets applied to us. And that was something that I really grappled with. Like if I can't figure out how to control this, it means I have to quit. And that means everyone's going to call me an alcoholic and I am a loser. I
Mm.
had this belief that it meant I was a weak-willed loser with no self-control. And that felt really painful.
It
So
feels painful hearing you say that. Oh.
yeah. So obviously I fought to try to control it for as long as I could because I didn't want that to become the reality. So
Mm.
some people are very empowered by the word alcoholic, and that's awesome. Other people are very disempowered by the word and they feel like it brings shame. Like I know technically that's what I am. I just don't identify that way. Like I'm not
Yeah.
playing any tricks on myself over here. I know the facts, but that word doesn't help me stay sober and it doesn't bring me any power, so therefore I don't use it.
Yeah. I appreciate the language around it because it's like it's not a word we've ever used growing up, but I'm like I just didn't know how to I'm like even language to even discuss it and talk about it. So thank you for that. I know people are like, okay, girl, we're talking about sobriety on a podcast. We about 3 minutes in. What are we doing here? And the reason why I wanted to bring this up is because when I think about this larger conversation that we've been having on this season of the podcast about this perception gap and exploring this disconnection between who we are and how others perceive us and like what we carry and how we lead. When I think about all these dynamics of what I've witnessed from my own clients or even in my own personal experience as I'm wrestling with like this kind of duality. It's like there are these and I that's why I wanted to have this conversation because I'm like, there are things that we are doing to numb ourselves and or ways in which things that we're engaging in to cope with whatever we needed to cope with that impacts not only how others perceive us, but how we perceive ourselves and how we present. And I just think like when you're running a business, and I'm like, business is the greatest form of therapy if you allow it to be. It's like it shines these lights on all these areas and all the that we can be hiding from ourselves in ourselves, and that directly impacts how we show up in our business, how we lead in our business, who we call in to work with, what problems we choose to solve. And I guess I want to just like start with like how either in your own journey or what you've noticed with clients, like when how does sobriety just like how is it like how does sobriety impact that perception gap just at like a basic level? Like what have you either noticed with yourself? I'm not sure when in your journey you started your business and when you chose to become sober, or what you notice with clients, but like how does sobriety impact how you're seeing business owners like lead and I don't know. I just kind of want to maybe just like start with the basics of that, of just like what are you even noticing right now? And if somebody who is running a business is either wrestling with becoming sober or remaining sober, like just like what kind of do they need to hear and what are you noticing right now?
Yeah, so I think the key point here is that alcohol allows us to tolerate things that we normally wouldn't.
Mm,
So you can tolerate those family members that you hate, you can tolerate your bad marriage, you can tolerate extraordinary amounts of stress and pressure. You can tolerate never taking a break or
mm,
relaxing or having downtime. People will use it in a way, in two ways that I've noticed. They'll either use it because they are productive all the time, and being productive is a big part of their identity, and they feel like rest is bad or lazy. So they'll go, 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 go. And then they can't turn it off, but they're so burned out. So they force themselves off with alcohol at the end of the day to get me
mm.
time.
So
And then
it's
they
like the
go
thing
back
that will
again.
allow them to actually like turn their brain off. Okay,
Yep.
I'm firing off at all cylinders. So what is okay, so that was the first one. Go to the second, then I'll come back.
Yeah. So the second one that I see is people feel like they have to be a different person publicly, at work, in meetings, at social things that have to do with work. And they use alcohol to become that other version.
Mm,
Usually someone who's more extroverted, maybe more charismatic, more fun. A lot of people, when they quit drinking, they just don't want to go out as long. So people will use it to be able to tolerate networking events and client dinners and all of these things. And just, it helps you ignore your inner signals because alcohol, it squashes your needs.
oh my goodness. I mean, I feel like I'm relating to so much of what you're saying of like ignoring that inner voice and ignoring your inner needs. And I'm like, I've seen my own patterns of doing it. It's just like I've been like, how have I been able to tolerate these extreme situations? It's like been purely through like mind body disconnection, like through self-abandonment. And when I think that the thing that's coming to mind right now, if somebody were to listening to this and hearing like, okay, are you using alcohol or using some sort of substance as a means to tolerate and or to like shape shift, to be who you think you need to be for other people. The question that's kind of coming up right now is like, if somebody's listening to this and is like, well, do I actually have a problem? I don't know. I feel like I'm like listening to this and I'm like, okay, if I'm putting myself in somebody else's shoes right now, and if I'm hearing this, it's like this might be and the initial awareness of, I guess, when do you know, or how would you advise somebody on like when is it time to maybe reevaluate the substances or the coping mechanisms that you are using to either tolerate or to be somebody that you feel like you have to be that you maybe aren't at the core. Like I know
Yeah. Uh,
as I'm hearing this, I'm just like, oh, do I? I'm not thinking about it from alcohol as a substance, but other things that I've done. I'm like, okay, like that's a very clear description of why I'm choosing to do certain things to tolerate certain situations. And now it's making me reflect even myself of like, what is a coping mechanism that you are using to like, when is a coping mechanism actually healthy versus do you are able to identify that this is not a healthy choice as a coping mechanism?
Yeah, that's a great question. Usually no one likes my answer to this type of question.
Well, that means it's probably the truth though. So,
Yeah, and people that struggle with alcohol or anything will wrestle with, do I fit the criteria? Do I qualify for a very long time? But the only criteria is if you're wondering if you have a problem, it means you have a problem. Like no one
mm,
wonders about, I don't wonder if I have a problem, uh, I don't know, with anything, with caffeine, because I don't. Like I don't have any consequences from it. I don't obsess over it. Like it's whatever. But
mm,
if you're wondering, it means deep down you know you do. You just desperately don't want that to be the truth. And
ooh,
as for your question about like when some things are okay, like some people that are not problem drinkers can dabble here and there, lean on alcohol a little bit when they have a hard day or when they're doing a networking, a bunch of peopling, whatever, and then move on with their life. Problem drinkers don't move on. They just
mm,
think about drinking all the time. Even like some people I've worked with barely drink, but they think about it all the time. Like they almost never
mm.
drink. And people get stuck on how often do I have to drink and how much do I have to drink when I do and trying to make the quantity and the frequency be the criteria. It's
Well, I
how
thought that's
much.
kind of what the criteria was too, of like, oh, if
No.
you drink once a quarter or just like socially or whatever, like it's fine.
No, it's how much it dominates your thoughts.
Mm. Okay. I think that's like a really good reframe. And it makes me just think, even like, again, in correlation to this, is like for business owners or people who are running businesses, I think about like, how are you managing your energetic and cognitive load? And like a lot of the time, I think that cognitive load and what's going on there has means so much more than like sometimes what these external metrics or these external like public metrics of quote unquote success are. Because like what is your experience of the thing, not just the result of what it is that you're doing. And I'm kind of hearing that
Exactly.
correlation.
Exactly. Yeah. Like you can take two people who drink the same amount and one person has this huge problem and the other person is fine. Like I've worked
Mm.
with people that drink like one drink occasionally. And from over here, I'm like, you're living the life. That's my dream. But they're suffering because they think about drinking all the time. And when they
Mm.
do drink, they feel terrible about themselves afterwards. And that's what the problem actually is. Like, obviously, for people that are like, I was a daily drinker. So obviously, I had some problems in my
Yeah.
life because of that. But for people who aren't drinking that amount, it's how it makes you feel about yourself.
Mm.
Most people don't have a drink and hate themselves afterwards and feel regret. They have a drink and they move on with their lives.
Yeah. I'm like, I just imagine if somebody's like holding this, in addition to holding the responsibilities that come with running a business, in addition to holding the responsibilities that come with like holding space for clients. And kind of, I'm here like, okay, yeah, yeah, you might be coping in private, but like there are very real public consequences to that. Like, what are you noticing in how this shows up for, or like, what is the advice to somebody who's maybe currently wrestling with this? Um, is wrestling with like, sobriety. Maybe they're on and off, maybe they're able to stop for a little bit, then a launch goes bad and they spiral, or like a team member quits last minute and they like revert back, or like they decide to lean into this. Like, I don't know, just like what are some thoughts here about like, or the reality of what's required when this is your coping mechanism, but I guess like how are you managing it all? Like when somebody's trying to navigate becoming sober or maybe who already is sober and is trying to remain sober, but they're still dealing with these like very real activating pressures that come by natural way of running a business or like leading in a dominant role. Like, how do you navigate that?
Yeah, and that's exactly the thing. Like it's called the work.
Yeah.
And
You're like, you're
uh
hitting the nail on the head. It is the work. Like that is it.
that is it. And when something comes up that makes you want to drink or emotionally eat or whatever, shop, anything, that's your work showing up. Like it creates
Mm.
this pressure, and we can either rise up and deal with it, or we can retreat and lean on these things that turn it off temporarily but make us feel worse later.
Yeah.
Like me being a workaholic after I stopped drinking was me avoiding the work. Like stuff would get uncomfortable and I'd be like, okay, bam, new offer. Like, bam, gonna spend 7 days a week working. Like, no problem. Look at me, I'm so productive. But that was me avoiding. And it's the same thing with any type of problem. We have to eventually face it.
So how do you or what helps somebody get to that level of awareness? And then when they start to, because what I heard you just say is like, oh, okay, I'm now sober. I'm going to just replace the coping mechanism now with more work, new offers, bigger launches, more calls in the membership, more content, pumping it out. And like, even once you notice that pattern, it's like, what is there like a first step, or what do you recommend for somebody to learn how to hold that level of discomfort? Which I mean, I know even just for me, also as a recovering workaholic, like sitting in the stillness can be so difficult. And I'm like, okay, I need some new tools on how to navigate this activated energy and to be able to put it somewhere and lean on something else to help me navigate through it. But when it comes with sobriety, have you noticed that there's anything that really does support somebody who is at that level of awareness and is trying to make change and stick with the changes that they've decided on?
Yeah, awareness is a difficult first step because whatever you're using to cope, whether it's alcohol, work, food, whatever, it feels like it's the solution.
Mm,
Like it feels like it's a tool or a crutch, even, but it's actually the thing that's causing all the suffering. Like with alcohol
mm.
specifically, it's making you more emotional, it's making you more impulsive, it's increasing your stress levels and anxiety. Like it's causing probably a lot of the intensity that you're experiencing.
Wow, yeah.
And it feels like then alcohol relieves it, so therefore it helps me feel better about my life, but it's actually making life worse. So just getting
Yeah.
that awareness, like for me, it took years to understand that my approach to work was the problem. I thought
Mm.
like there were other problems because it's easier to blame other things than ourselves. Um, so that awareness, first of all, is really helpful. And then understanding like what do you actually have to work on? Like if it's being present or experiencing your emotions, you don't have to just sit there and experience everything all at once. You can like go on a walk and experience it slowly, but being willing to do it and okay with the suffering is a good
Mm.
second step.
Yeah, what I'm also like hearing you say this is like I can see it being challenging too. And this is what I wrestled with before I took my sabbatical. And even while I'm on it, it's like all these things though is what contributed to why I was successful. At least that was
Mm-hmm.
a story that I was telling myself. Like the impulseness or like being able to channel all this energy or being the workaholic. It's like all these habits, while they had negative consequences, also contributed to why I became like how I created my success. And if somebody is like wrestling with that, like, is there any, like, how do you come to terms with that or start to like you said, that no longer can be kind of like the fuel source, or I realized that my approach to work, that couldn't be it anymore long term.
Yeah, a lot of this stuff, and I'm speaking from personal experience and from what I've observed with others, but a lot of this stuff, there's a very painful belief and or issue behind it, usually self-worth. And we feel like if I am very available for everyone and I make all these low priced offers and I just have so many, or like I have more meetings, or I take more clients, or I make 2 podcast episodes a week instead of one, that then the self-worth hole is going to get filled. So we're
Mm,
trying to get external things to fix internal problems,
yeah.
and it doesn't work. Like you can use alcohol to turn off the self-worth problem temporarily.
Because it'll like numb it or make, you know,
Yeah, same with food. Or
yeah.
you can use work to try to fill it and give you self-worth. But those
Mm,
things will never do that. You have to find it inside yourself. And I guess my argument, which I know is factual from my own experience, is once you give up outsourcing self-worth to all of these external things or other people's opinions, or moving the goalposts for money that you make, whatever it is, you'll actually be more successful, because when you're mentally healthy, you just do better. Like if you're trying to help clients or you're trying to even free content, whatever it is, and in the back of your head, you feel like you're a piece of crap loser and you don't like yourself and you're worried about your competition and you have all these threads going on about low self-worth and anxiety and not good enough, or that your personality is wrong, whatever it is, like you're
yeah.
not showing up well.
Man, when you are mentally healthy, you will do better. I think is something that I want to like put that on a post-it note. And like when you're mentally well, you will do better. I think it's like a lot of the time we intellectually know this. Like, yes, if I'm healthy, I'll be able to live longer. I'll be able to be more present with my kids. I'll be able to like create from a better place. Um, but when you're in the thick of it and wrestling with whatever it is that you're wrestling with, I feel like that can be a hard truth to like hold on and believe in when what you've been doing, even though it's been like, you know, terrible consequences for you, is that's led to your success. It's like to think that like it can get better. It actually will be better. I think is really like that was really beautiful. Um, and I think the other thing that me and you, I've learned a lot by knowing you about just sobriety and how it impacts individuals. But like something that I feel like I've really learned from you is that sobriety isn't just about drinking, but it's about self-trust. And just from the conversations we've had, or like listening to your podcast or reading your content, like, can you maybe talk a little bit about that? About, I think it kind of stems from what you just said, like this whole self-worth piece, but it's, if most of the, yeah, I just wanted to hear your thoughts on like, on that. Like, sobriety isn't just about drinking, but it's about self-trust.
Yeah, and that is something that people eventually learn, hopefully,
Yeah.
because we don't trust that we're good enough, that people will like us. We don't trust our gut instincts. We don't trust like our feelings, or that we can cope with them, or that we can handle life. And when you're doing a behavior that makes you feel bad about yourself very consistently, your self-worth goes into the trash, and you
Yeah.
prove to yourself that you don't follow through with what you say, that maybe you feel like you're lazy, unmotivated, or you're a loser, like whatever the labeling is, it makes you think really bad things about yourself. So why would you trust that person, the person that's
Mm,
continuously sabotaging you nonstop?
yeah.
And a lot of people too, whatever it is, like drinking, eating, shopping, like doesn't working, doesn't matter. Um, they never learned how to cope in a healthy way, first of all, but they never really learned either how to trust themselves and be a friend to themselves, instead of beating the crap out of themselves with judgment and criticism and worrying about everybody's opinion, and needing external validation and praise, and to fill all these holes internally. And we're the only one that can fill them for ourselves, which sucks. It sucks that it has to be that way, but it's just
But at least
life.
but you're the source of your solution though. Like it sucks that we have to, and it's like, but you can give it to yourself.
That and the most empowering thing for me when I got sober, I thought getting sober, like, I've arrived. Where's the parade? I did it. I fixed the problem. And then I noticed, like, 6 months in, wait, I still behave in those ways that I don't like. I thought my personality was going to be better. I thought that was the drinking. And I still have all of these interpersonal issues at work. What's going on here?
Mm,
I thought this was the alcohol. And I realized I am the common denominator.
yeah.
I'm the problem. I'm the drama. And that was uncomfortable to admit. And I've realized that about myself a few times in 5 years, but I think when people are faced with that moment where they can rise up and take ownership and responsibility of their own pattern, you can either do that or you can retreat backwards,
Mm,
and then the lesson will continue to show up.
yeah.
And yeah, I'm always like, wow, I'm the problem here. Oh, I thought it was this external thing or that person or whatever. Once I realize I'm the problem, like, bam, I fix it.
Wow. So I mean, I'm like hearing this and I'm like, I think that you've built such a remarkably like successful and incredible business like for yourself, but also the ripple effect of what you've been able to support other people with through their journey of not just moderating their drinking, but like going like being sober without moderation. Can you share a little bit about your thoughts on moderation? I want to start there and then I want to talk about like what the like now that you're on the other side, but you're still, I feel like actively making sobriety as a choice. Just from the conversations we have, it's like yes, you decide, but then it's like you have to keep choosing that. I want to talk about the journey on the other end, but I would love to hear your thoughts on moderation because I think in today's culture and society, like there's so many now. I don't know. I feel like there's a lot of like marketing and language around this, but I really want to hear your perspective.
Yeah, so moderation feels like it's the goal, it's the dream. People who moderate are healthier than people who abstain, and all of these things, none of which are true, actually. People who moderate are healthier because they have a healthier lifestyle and
Mm,
they typically make more money. So they're healthier despite the drinking, not because of it.
mm.
People who abstain, usually people like me, are not included because I used to drink. They look at lifetime abstainers. Those people drink more soda, eat more junk food. They're maybe more sedentary. Not all the time, but that's typically what happens in studies. Um,
You mean like scientific studies right now?
yeah,
Okay.
yeah, that's where that step, like, oh, that it's healthy comes from. Like, the
Mm,
context is important there.
yeah.
But with moderation, most people can. Go live it. Go live your best life. I'm happy for you that you don't know the struggle. My husband moderates. He just doesn't care about alcohol at all. But for people who drink problematically, moderation is never possible, ever,
Mm.
no matter what.
And that contextual distinction is really important.
Yeah, and that's what's hard to accept, that you can't change the way that you drink. And even for people who technically moderate, like people who drink one drink once or twice a week, but obsess about it all the time and feel shame for it, like
Uh,
that's not actually moderation, even though you're really doing it. It
But
still
you're having
dominates.
constant thoughts though.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. And with a lot of people will take breaks to try to cure themselves, which I did too. And when you take a break, of course, you're not going to drink as much when you first get back to it if the break was long enough because you've broken the habitual pattern, your tolerance has decreased, whatever. But having a problem and that vulnerability to it is in you. Like you
Mm,
have all the risk factors that are there. You just need the life circumstances to line up. And you can't keep your life tightly controlled and perfect forever. Like something's going to happen. Grief,
mm,
too much stress at work, moving to wine country, I don't know, like something might happen and then you compromise the rules 1% and then bam, you're
Yeah.
done.
So thank you for that. I mean, I feel like you are the person when moderation doesn't work. It's like when I think about that, I think about you. And I want to really talk to about like what somebody can expect once they're maybe like, okay, I am sober. I'm choosing this as a lifestyle for myself. Especially again, I want to contextualize this, and I wanted you to have this conversation because like, you also run a really big business and like a super successful business. You run a very popular podcast, and you're still choosing to do this with all like, and that's just business. I'm not even talking about like all the life dynamics that you have like when somebody's on the other side and like sobriety is the lifestyle that they're living and like what has really helped you at the different stages of your journey in sobriety like maybe the early stages like the first 3 months versus like months 6 through 1 year and now like you're over 5 years like I would love to hear like at the different seasons of your journey what has been most supportive for you to allow you to like keep choosing yourself and keep trusting yourself and like keep filling that cup of self-worth versus like going back.
Yeah, in the beginning, sobriety dominates most people's minds.
Mm-hmm.
You just think about it all the time. You future trip about that wedding that you have a year from now and the champagne toast. That's what I did.
Mm-hmm.
How am I ever going to go on vacation again? I haven't even been to France yet. How am I going to go there and not drink? What about my kid when they get married? How am I not going to drink at their wedding, but their kid's only 5 years old? And like we
But they're
future
really,
trip
yeah.
and everything's a trigger. Everything reminds you, like you notice how much alcohol is on TV all the time and all the ads, and you just start seeing it. Your feelings rush back in after being numbed for so long, and it's really uncomfortable. So the first few months are just about like getting through it. A lot of people will lean on sugar, like that's whatever. It's you can deal with that later. Emotions will be really volatile, and maybe you're really happy, then you're really sad, then you're really mad, and all of it is very normal because you're someone who likely hasn't learned a lot of coping skills. Otherwise, you wouldn't have had to drink that much alcohol. So now you're just in your life with no coping skills.
Mm,
So for me, that was the biggest part of it. Like, how do I just deal with things? Like, every minor inconvenience would set me off and
mm,
frazzle me. And the reminder that I have is just like, you will be so much more capable 6 months from now, a year from now. Like, you're going to build skills over time. This is not just what sobriety is. And then as you continue on and you do different things on the weekend and you have new friends and you have more of a life, then the thoughts of like, maybe I'm cured, maybe it's been long enough, maybe I can moderate now, like maybe I went overboard with this whole thing. And when that happens, it's usually because other stuff in life is coming up that's
mm,
uncomfortable. And it's much easier to retreat back into a old, comforting, self-destructive behavior than it is to rise up and move forward and address a problem. But thoughts of moderation are also normal. The key is just accepting that you're done. If you're
mm.
if you're fighting that acceptance, you're going to flip-flop for a while. Like I
Yeah.
was never done until I realized I cannot change the way that I drink no matter what. And helping other people now, it really helps me stay on the right path.
Mm,
Having a life, actually liking my life. Some people don't do any work on themselves when they quit drinking. It's called being a dry drunk. And they're
mm.
just the same person, but without the alcohol. So they're miserable all the time. And that makes you really vulnerable to going back to alcohol or picking up something else.
Yeah. I'm like, what I keep hearing you say is like, okay, there are a lack of fundamental skills that need to be developed in order to maintain and sustain this long term. And when I think
Mhm.
about skill development, even in my own life, I'm like, okay, I could go listen to a podcast, I could go read a book, but like usually when it's like larger skill developments, I'm like, no, I need to go to therapy. I need to have my own coach. I need to be in community with other people to build my belief that like or maybe borrow somebody else's belief when I'm like lacking on my own. Like, how has like external support really like helped you navigate this? And again, I'm just thinking of like when you, I feel like, oh, like let me go do this in like some silo. But I'm like, I know the type of clients that you work with. And even for yourself, it's like these people are leading very big roles. They're high pressure jobs. They have a lot of responsibility on their plate that they're responsible for. And it's just like, and I'm hearing all this emotional volatility. I can hear somebody thinking, like, I have way too much shit going on right now. I cannot handle like yes this is a problem or like yes whatever but like there's too much going on at work for me to have to also deal with this like emotional volatility that's going to happen that could happen and will continue to happen as I'm developing these new skill sets. Like what do you how have you been able to help or what has been most useful to help somebody be able to hold that duality of the responsibilities that they need to show up for that like don't stop just because they are now sober, but also like in the midst of like learning these new skills. I mean, I think that's true in business. Like we're always like doing both but I don't know. I would love to hear your perspective on that.
Yeah, it's much easier to do anything when you don't hate yourself. So even though quitting drinking didn't magically make me like myself, I wasn't doing something every day that made me hate my own guts.
Yeah, that's,
So
oh, I just got full body chills. Oh my gosh.
like
Like,
that's part of it. Another
yeah,
part of it too is like that those emotional ups and downs are there. You're just turning them off every night or however many nights a week with drinking. They're still there all day. You're still overreacting to things, taking things personally. Like you're still doing all of it.
yeah,
Um, and what people see is that once they get to like 6 weeks, even, they just feel space. Like they're not obsessing anymore. They can look at their life and be like, I don't need to really prove myself so hard in this area
yeah.
anymore. Maybe I don't have to spend an extra hour tonight doing emails or stupid whatever. And they choose other things, and then that makes their life better. So it's
Yeah.
not as bad as people expect. Like you're in the bad part.
Right.
You're drinking. That's the bad part. Whatever's next is always less bad.
Yeah, that's beautiful. So how is it now, 5 years sober, helping hundred thousands of people, also navigating this journey? Like, tell us like how good it's gotten. I mean, I know it's not perfect, like that's life, but like what has like what's been able to be unlocked in either what you now believe is possible, your relationship with your own desires and pleasure, and emotions now? Like what does life look like and business look like for you now? Like how has it gotten better?
Yeah, my life is better in every single way. I went from, I would even start thinking about a goal and I couldn't finish the thought because my other voice in my head would be like, you're not going to do that. And
Mm,
now I have a goal and I'm like, why not me? And then
that's
I
a
pursue
huge
the goal.
shift.
Yeah. And I really like myself and my life. Before, I hated myself and I hated my life and I thought it was everyone else's fault. And the drinking was like a 2 hour escape from a life and a person that I hated.
Mm,
Me, I was a person. And I didn't realize that those 2 hours were causing 22 hours of misery. And now I wake up and I walk around and I'm like, yes. Like some days I wake up at 4:30. I'm so excited to start my day because I just love my life. I I don't know. It's just once you remove something that's dragging you down and then you find some self-worth and you accept the things that you have to work on and the skills you have to learn,
Yeah.
it's just endless. And I was struggling with the workaholic stuff a lot too. That was a huge crutch for me. And I thought you said it really well earlier. You said when you want like a new skill or something, you can listen to a podcast or read a book. But when you want to make a major life change, you need more than a podcast usually. You need
Yeah.
like other people. You need someone to model the kind of life that you want or the kind of business
Yeah.
that you want or something. And even though, like, when I made the decision to not be a workaholic anymore, I kind of knew like what I should do, but I still wanted your support to keep me courageous and pursuing it. Because you can, like I said, like a moment will come up that's really uncomfortable, and you can either rise to the occasion or revert back.
Yeah.
And like group coaching itis or, new offer itis, like all these little things. And it's so nice to have someone else just support you or a community of people, whatever it is. So I thought that was key. And with drinkers, we usually don't have very many role models or people that we like people's lives that we look up to and like, wow, I want that for me. And that's where support really helps because you see examples of that and you see examples of people coping in real time and dealing with things. And then you learn from that. It's not just reading or hearing someone on a podcast say, like, walks are really good for stress management.
It's like, no shit, Sherlock. Like,
Learn how to reframe.
oh, I mean, I'm still nervous about this episode, but I feel like it's such an important conversation. And just something that, like, whether it's alcohol or food or shopping or work, like, I think we all have these coping mechanisms, and sometimes coping mechanisms, good Lord, are helpful and healthy. I feel like this was just, I got full body chills multiple times during this conversation with you. And I'm just like, what are you working on now? I already know somebody listening to this is like, who is this Jill woman? How have I never known about her? Where do I get more of her? And luckily, y'all, she has so much, she is just, where do people need to go? Because you have so much goodness to share, whether somebody's dealing with sobriety as an individual or if they have a loved one who's navigating it. I feel like what you do is so distinctly different than a lot of other like sober spaces in the industry. And I just think that I'm proud to know you. I'm really honored to be able to witness your work. And I just think it's beautiful what you've created in like the niche specific lane that you have. But like, where can people learn more about you? What's coming up and what's coming out that they need to know about?
Thank you. I appreciate that. So my best work is on my podcast, Sober Powered. So if you want to understand why you can't drink like everybody else, that's where you should go. And what's next? I'm writing a book about why people can't moderate. So I hope that in the future, when people see someone who took a break and they now think that they're cured, they say, hey, did you read this book? And then they don't go back and get
Yeah.
even more proof that they're still not cured.
Mm. She also has an incredible membership if you are looking to be in community with other individuals who are navigating this. And she has a select space for private one-on-one coaching. If you're like, I want somebody a little bit more hands-on and personalized for your experience, I want to make sure they are aware of that about you.
Thank you.
You're welcome. But
That's a
just,
weak spot of mine is mentioning my own work.
well, I will name it for them. Or like I said, if it's not you, if it's somebody that you know that needs this to support in their journey, like let them know about Jill. But again, thank you for having like this still feels like a very tender, vulnerable conversation. I just really appreciate being able to bring you on to be able to have this conversation with me and with everybody listening. So just thank you so much for being here.
Yeah, thank you. And thanks for raising awareness for this.
Yeah. So thank you so much. We will see y'all in the next episode, everybody.